Every single evening, it happens right outside your window. The feeders go quiet, the bird bath empties, the branches stop moving, and just like that, they're gone. But here's what nobody ever stops to ask. Where did they actually go? Not in a general sense, not into the trees somewhere, but specifically right now, tonight. Where is the cardinal that visits your feeder every morning? Where is the little chickadee that watches you from the fence? Where did they go, and what are they doing while you sleep? Most people assume birds just disappear, that they tuck into some branch, close their eyes, and wait for sunrise. Simple, peaceful, unremarkable. But what if I told you that assumption is almost completely wrong? What if the moment your yard goes dark, something extraordinary begins? A hidden world of survival strategies, secret social gatherings, and biological miracles so astonishing that scientists are still uncovering new layers of it today. Tonight, we're going behind the curtain of darkness. And I promise you, by the time we reach the final reveal in this video, the way you look at a quiet evening yard will never be the same again. If you're new here, welcome to the Backyard Oracle, where we go deeper into the lives of your backyard birds than anywhere else. Hit that subscribe button right now, because what I'm about to share is the kind of thing most bird lovers go their entire lives without knowing. Stay until the very end, because the last secret I've saved for you is genuinely the most mind-blowing thing I've ever shared on this channel. Let's begin. Where do your birds actually go? When the light fades and your yard empties, your birds don't travel far. In fact, most common backyard birds, sparrows, finches, cardinals, wrens, stay within a few hundred feet of where you last saw them. But here's what makes it fascinating. They aren't choosing randomly. Every bird chooses its nighttime roost with deliberate, instinct-driven precision. Take the black-capped chickadee, one of the most beloved backyard visitors across North America. When temperatures drop, that tiny bird doesn't simply land on a branch and hope for the best. It searches for a very specific kind of shelter, a small enclosed cavity, a hollow in a dead tree, a gap behind loose bark, or, and this is where your yard comes in, a nest box. That nest box you put up for spring nesting. It may be in use right now on winter nights as a life-saving roost chamber. The chickadee enters, tucks itself into the darkest corner, and the walls of that box hold in just enough body heat to make a difference between surviving the night and not. And there's something quietly moving about that, isn't there? A bird that weighs less than 5 nickels, choosing your yard, your nest box, as the place it trusts to keep it alive until morning. But the physical location is only the beginning of what's happening in that tiny body overnight. Because what comes next is where the real miracle begins. The survival adaptation nobody talks about. Here's a number I want you to hold in your mind. 11 grams. That is the average weight of a black-capped chickadee. 11 grams. About the weight of 3 paper clips. Now imagine keeping a creature that small, alive through a winter night where temperatures outside drop to 10, 15, even 20 degrees below zero. The math, biologically speaking, is almost impossible. A body that's small loses heat so fast that, without intervention, it would burn through every calorie reserve it carried and still not survive. So how does it do it? The chickadee enters a state called regulated hypothermia. On purpose, deliberately. It lowers its own body temperature by up to 15 degrees Fahrenheit below its normal daytime level. Its heart rate slows, its breathing deepens, its metabolism drops to a fraction of what it burns during the day, conserving just enough energy to carry it through to first light. This is not accidental. This is not a malfunction. This is one of the most sophisticated survival tools in the natural world, built into a creature the size of your thumb. And it happens, quietly, invisibly, in yards just like yours, every single winter night. But here's something that will surprise you even more than the chickadee's midnight hibernation. Because while that tiny bird is roosting alone in its cavity, conserving heat, burning almost nothing, surviving, other birds in your yard are doing something completely opposite. They are gathering. The secret flock you've never seen. During the day, your backyard has a strict social order. There's competition at the feeder. There's chasing. There's territorial behavior, dominant birds pushing others aside, smaller birds waiting their turn. If you've watched long enough, you've seen it. The yard has a hierarchy, and every bird knows its place. But at night, something remarkable happens. That hierarchy dissolves. Starlings, which most people think of as aggressive, chaotic, and territorial, will press together in communal roosts numbering in the thousands. Sparrows that compete fiercely for seed during daylight hours will huddle in dense, warm clusters inside thick shrubs after dark. Even species that rarely interact during the day will share the same sheltered hedgerow when survival demands it. Cooperation replaces competition. Warmth becomes more valuable than dominance. And here's why this matters for your yard specifically. That dense shrub along your fence, the one that might look a little overgrown and unruly. At night, it may be one of the most important structures in your entire neighborhood, packed with small bodies pressed together for warmth, sheltered from wind and predators, invisible from the outside. The birds aren't choosing your shrub by accident. They are choosing it because it works. Because your yard, the one you planted and tended and maybe never thought much about after dark, is providing something essential that keeps wild creatures alive. That's not nothing. That's extraordinary. How birds sleep without truly sleeping. Now let's talk about something that sounds almost impossible. Your birds are resting, their eyes may be closed, their metabolism is reduced, but your yard is not unguarded. Because birds have evolved a sleep system that human beings can barely comprehend, and it gives them an advantage that no amount of darkness can take away. It's called unihemispheric slow-wave sleep. In plain language, birds can sleep with one half of their brain while the other half remains awake and alert. One eye stays open, connected to the wakeful hemisphere, scanning for movement, watching for shadows, listening for the snap of a twig. The other eye closes, and that side of the brain rests. Then they switch, back and forth, through the night, so that the bird is never fully unconscious, never fully vulnerable. Your yard looks still, it feels still, but it is watched. Every shadow that moves across the fence, every rustle in the leaf litter, every sound that doesn't belong to the night, registered, evaluated, and responded to by a brain that never fully lets its guard down. Sit outside quietly on a warm evening and pay attention. That sudden alarm chip from the bushes, that single sharp note in the dark, that is a sleeping bird sending a message. It heard something. And now every other bird within earshot is awake. The night yard is alive in ways your eyes will never fully see. The light in the window. Here's a moment you may have actually experienced and never understood. A bird hits your window. At night, not during the day when reflections confuse them, but in the darkness when your lights are on inside. You hear the soft thud. You go to look, and there's a small bird, sometimes stunned, sometimes just sitting on the sill for a long moment before flying away. What happened? Artificial light pulls night-migrating birds off course with a force we are only beginning to fully appreciate. Birds navigating by stars, using constellations as a map that has guided their species for millions of years, become confused and disoriented when city light, suburban light, your light, bleeds into the sky they're trying to read. They circle, they descend. Some fly toward windows as if the interior warmth is something they need to reach. The bird on your windowsill was not lost by accident. It was migrating, perhaps hundreds of miles in a single night, and your home interrupted a journey that began in another country. And that brings us to the final, most astonishing secret of all. Because everything I've told you so far, the roosting, the huddling, the half-sleeping vigilance, the window strikes, all of it is happening at ground level, in your yard, in your shrubs and nest boxes and trees. But look up. The river of birds above your head. Right now, on almost any night between late March and early June, and again from August through October, something is happening above your home that most people never know exists. Millions of birds are flying over you in the dark, not dozens, not hundreds, millions. On peak migration nights, radar scientists tracking bird movement across North America have recorded over 500 million individual birds in flight in a single night, crossing the continent from south to north or north to south, depending on the season. These are not exotic rarities. These are the birds you know. The warblers that appear in your yard in May as if from nowhere. They came from nowhere, from thousands of feet above, descending at dawn after a night of flying. The thrushes, the vireos, the tiny ruby-throated hummingbird, crossing the Gulf of Mexico in the dark over open water, flying through the night on stored fat the size of a raisin. And they fly over your house, your neighborhood, your yard. When your feeder is full of new visitors in the morning, birds you've never seen before, birds that will be gone again by afternoon. Those birds landed there because your yard was the first safe place they found after a night of flight. Your trees were the shelter, your water was the rescue, your feeders were the fuel stop on a journey measured in thousands of miles. Your quiet yard, dark and still, and seemingly empty, was a way station in one of the greatest mass movements in the natural world. What you now know, that most people never will. Let's come back to that moment, the one at the end of the day when the feeders go quiet and the yard empties and everything looks like it's simply over. You know now that it isn't. Right now, somewhere in your yard, a bird that weighs 11 grams is sleeping in a cavity with its body temperature deliberately lowered, burning as little energy as possible, waiting for first light. A cluster of sparrows is pressed together in your bushes, sharing warmth, alive because cooperation replaced competition the moment the sun went down. A sentinel sleeps with one eye open, watching the shadows, guarding the flock. And overhead, invisible to you, silent at that altitude, a river of wings moves through the darkness. Birds you have fed, birds you will see again. Birds crossing a continent on memory and starlight and stored fat, trusting that somewhere below there will be a yard like yours to land in when the sun comes up. This secret world has always been there. Every evening of your life it has begun without you knowing it. Every morning it has ended while you were still asleep. And the birds who depend on you, the ones who come to your feeder, who trust your yard, who choose your trees and nest boxes and shrubs, they have been living inside that secret world the entire time. You were never just a bird watcher. You were part of something much larger than you knew. I want to ask you something. Have you ever heard a bird call in the dark outside your window, that single sharp note in the middle of the night, and wondered what it meant? Or woken to a yard full of birds you'd never seen before, there one morning and gone by afternoon? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. And your story might be the one I build a future video around. If this video gave you something new, a different way of seeing the ordinary evening outside your door, then the Backyard Oracle is the channel you've been looking for. Subscribe and turn on notifications because next time we're going somewhere even deeper. The birds are waiting.